Hi, everyone. Very pleased to be here today with everyone. I am Jasmine Kalha. I work at the Center for Mental Health Law and Policy at the Indian Law Society in a city called Pune in India. And I'm here to talk about some of our experiences of implementing peer support. While the abstract says I should be covering Uganda and Tanzania, but our colleagues could not feed in their input, so I'm just going to try and walk you through our experiences in India. So our journey with peer support began through a very different intervention, which is called Quality Rights Gujarat. Quality Rights is the WHO's framework for reducing human rights violation and improving quality of care at mental health care facilities. The broad aim is that mental health care traditionally at facilities is primarily designed to be a biomedical approach, as a curative approach, as somewhere where voices of people with lived experience is given less space and importance. And the whole idea was to bring in that shift at a more systemic level. So while we were doing some capacity building on recovery, we realized that people needed more practical solutions to recovery oriented care, where we introduced peer support volunteers. These volunteers are people with lived experience who support other people with lived experience in their recovery journey. So they did a lot of recovery sessions with people, which focus on a strengths-based perspective about figuring out how does one lead a life that people wish to lead as per their will and preference, and despite having symptoms and despite having certain mental health conditions. So our experience was that we managed to bring in policy change. We managed to get the Department of Health and Family Welfare to financially support the intervention after the project duration. Um, while we managed to bring in sustainability there were lots of gaps that we had. We realized that the intervention needed a lot more work. The peer support work needed to be more clearly defined. We needed to build in more sustainable supervision, mentorship structures. We needed to more clearly define how the other services, which were more clinical in nature, would interact uh, with peer support services, and how does one really not look at peer support as taking on the burden of reforming healthcare systems alone. So therefore we realized that there were lots of gaps in building this as a sustainable scalable model, which is when we met with Upsides team, which is a multi-centered, multi-country consortium. We're a mix of high, middle, and low-income settings, where we're all at different phases of our intervention at peer support. And our hope has been that we've done some work around working through situation analysis and figuring out what our challenges are. And we had reached a point where we developed an intervention. So this was pre-pandemic, where we had about a 6-week trial where we trained our peer workers. We encouraged them to hold a few recovery sessions with other people with lived experience. And we tried to work on improving an organizational readiness for encouraging or supporting the role of peer support interventions. And through that process, we did have a few learnings. And some of the learnings were that our peer interventions at our site, for example, we wanted to mix and match that with social care, social welfare, and mental health care support. So our hope was that we would build an intervention which would restart some of the peer support group meetings that we had started in Quality Rights. We wanted our peer workers to be involved in enabling access to social care benefits, because we believe mental health care is a development issue, and it is a psychosocial issue. So one also needs to address financial stability, for example, for well-being. And our other hope was that because we do have a progressive mental health care law, which provides for advance directives to be made, We wanted to explore the idea of how peer workers could contribute to legal support, at least by filling in their advance directives, along with, of course, holding these. We are trying out individual one-to-one sessions where people can talk about recovery care for themselves. So we did try out the intervention. We did have some amount of success with the one-to-one sessions. Our peer workers were quite excited about the intervention. And we'd begun the trial just before the lockdown and the pandemic hit us. And then because peer support is not seen as an essential service, when the pandemic hit and when we experienced a long period of lockdown in our country, um, peer support workers were not asked to come to the facility given the risk and given the lack of social care benefits that people have access to. So we experienced a challenging period where we tried to reach out to our peer workers through, say, phone calls, through text messages. However, our peer workers didn't have a lot of access to their own devices, and attending monthly meetings as a group was becoming more and more challenging. And it is an odd situation where mental health care support, which is usually done in person, which requires that trust and relationship building, had to now be conceptualized as more phone-based support, at least even within the group itself. So that became a difficult thing for us. However, we tried to keep some sense of cohesiveness. And some of the discussions that we've had have been quite interesting in terms of conceptualizing the role of peer support in the time of a pandemic. How should one make amendments to it? How does one conceptualize mental health care when there is a need to also perhaps provide more practical social support, even if it means accessing an employment space or accessing a health insurance scheme? So these are some of the questions that have been coming up. There has been a lot of hesitance to come back to the facility because that it's not considered safe enough, or given that some of our peer workers are older, have comorbid conditions. So it's been a process of us to think through what's the best way to restart it at our site. Um, and now we've reached a phase where we've sort of started a restart where we can start training our peer volunteers again, where there there is a bit of hesitance to speak to people with lived experience, but we've started that process again. However, that still does leave a few challenging questions that one would like to think through. And maybe something that I would like to end with is, how does one really look at the role of peer support in a healthcare system where the focus is on a primarily biomedical model? So how does one really think of systemic shifts, and how does one remove the burden of peer support only through the work of how does one just trying to focus on peer support volunteers? Providing a recovery oriented care is perhaps not good enough, and we need to be doing more. And especially when one is looking at the social context of that social care systems are perhaps not adequate. So how does one conceptualize mental health peer support in the absence of enough social care support when it comes to employment, education, housing? Um, and I think, how does one really shift the conversation to a rights-based approach, even when one is talking about a peer support intervention? And really, like, how does one bring in policy interventions to make this a sustainable model? How does one look at peer support in the times of pandemic when we do need more psychosocial interventions and psychosocial support that might be required? So these are the questions that I will stop with, because these are some things that we are also grappling with, and there are no simple answers to that. So thank you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the presentations.